From Australia, this is the Wireless Institute of Australia with the weekly news service. This broadcast is in text, audio and video and is accessed on WIA.org.au.
Hi, I'm Graham, VK4 Baker, and yes, it's VK1WIA with the national news. And in the news, Felix, with his Nets of Note, picks up on a good one via our sister broadcaster Amateur Radio Newsline. Details from Clive, VK6 Charlie Sierra Whiskey, on another net, the RAOTC net. Last man standing goes QRT, again. Fins aren't what they used to be. Nokia heads for the moon. And in Rewind, with VK4 FJRK John Knox, it's a look here at KDKA Centennial, the birth of commercial radio. But now, more engineers to be trained for HF radio. Criticalcoms.com.au are reporting Australia's Department of Defence is joining up with BAE Systems Australia and the University of Adelaide to advance interest in the study of HF radar technology in an effort to increase the number of specialist trained engineers. A memorandum of understanding has been signed that will see the establishment of a Centre for High Frequency Technologies. Of prime concern is increasing knowledge and understanding of the domain in which Australia's Jindalee Operational Radar Network, the over-the-horizon HF radar, operates. The centre will develop and commercialise new technologies that will benefit defence industry and Defence's ability to transition innovation into capability, added Minister for Defence Industry Melissa Price. Ultimately, the program will also bolster employment opportunities in upper atmosphere physics and radio frequency engineering. Famous Aussie honoured with a UK special event station. Larry Golf 4 HLN will be active as GB4 CKS between the 1st and the 14th of November. He'll operate CW and some SSB 40 to 10 metres. That call, GB4CKS, is marking the 85th anniversary of the death of Australian record-setting aviator Sir Charles Kingsford Smith, who disappeared on the 8th of November 1935 off the coast of Myanmar, then known as Burma, whilst trying to break the England-Australia speed record. QSL via G4HLN direct or via the Bureau. Nice one, Larry. Now, usually at this time, we're able to bring you a report from a director, and they do take it in turns. Last week, we were expecting our president, this week our secretary. However, nothing heard was the loud reply, so without further ado...
Now, international news with Jason, Victor Kilo 2, Lima Alpha Whiskey.
Hello, we begin this week in New Zealand. The New Zealand 5 MHz amateur band usage ceases. NZART, the New Zealand National Amateur Radio Society, advises that unfortunately the New Zealand Defence Force has advised that they're not willing to approve another renewal of the 5 MHz trial allocation licence. As a result, all use by NZ amateurs of the two 5 MHz trial frequencies 5353.0 kHz or 5362.0 kHz ceased from midnight October 24, 2020. Although the trial is over and all transmissions on the trial frequencies are now QRT, NZART will continue to work with their regulator to see if there are other ways of providing ZL amateurs with access to 5 MHz frequencies. In Japan, amateur radio rule change. Japan's Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications is holding a public consultation on revisions to radio law enforcement regulations to enable elementary and junior high school students to experience the enjoyment of amateur radio. Although the new amateur radio experience station was institutionalised in April this year to enable social contribution in order to further expand, the system will be reviewed so that unqualified elementary and junior high school students can experience the utilisation and enjoyment of radio waves in their daily lives. To Europe now, in Finland, that old giant of the telecommunications world, Finnish company Nokia, says it's been tapped by NASA to build the first cellular communications network on the moon. The Finnish telecommunications equipment maker said that its Nokia Bell Labs division will build a 4G communication system to be deployed on a lunar lander to the moon's surface in late 2022. Nokia's network will provide critical communication capabilities for tasks astronauts will need to carry out, like remote control of lunar rovers, real-time navigation, and high-definition video streaming. In Germany, Golden Antenna Award. The German town of Bad Bentheim is again taking nominations for the Golden Antenna Award. For 50 years, the town has hosted German-Dutch Amateur Radio Days, during which the town stresses the importance of amateur radio as a public service. A committee headed by the mayor of Bad Bentheim will choose the winner, who will be invited to receive the award August 2021. The committee will favour candidates who did something special related to the COVID-19 pandemic, but other candidates are also welcome. To Portugal, Magellan, and the world's first circumnavigation 500 years ago. Back in August last year, 2019, Spain began to celebrate its 500th anniversary of the start of the first circumnavigation of the world, unwittingly initiated by Ferdinand Magellan. Yes, 5 centuries ago, Portuguese explorer Ferdinand Magellan discovered a passage between the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans, today's Strait of Magellan. He paid dearly for his expedition. In search of the East Indies, he was killed in the Philippines. In the end, only 3 years after setting sail for the Moluccas Islands, only one of the 5 ships returned home, with a Captain Elcano completing Magellan's involuntary and unplanned circumnavigation of the world. On September 6, 1522, the Victoria reached the Spanish port of San Lucar de Barrameda. Only about 20 sailors survived the first historically documented circumnavigation of the world. Now, Echo Alpha 7, Uniform Romeo Foxtrot, is participating in the official celebrations for the 500th anniversary of the first circumnavigation of the Earth as Alpha Mike 500 Echo Tango Sierra, and is active to November 8th. And wrapping up this week's international news, to Peru. Peru planned to sell amateur radio frequencies. BN Americas report Peru's Ministry of Transport and Communications plans to sell off amateur radio frequencies in the 3.3 to 3.8 GHz band for 5G mobile. BN Americas note the spectrum was used by radio amateurs and radio location and say, in a ruling published last week, however, MTC modified the National Frequency Allocation Plan to allow carriers to provide some services other than those originally assigned for the spectrum. Peru expects to launch a spectrum tender for 5G technology in the first half of 2021, awarding frequencies in the 3.3 to 3.8 GHz range for the 3.5 GHz band and the 24.2 to 25.5 GHz range for the 26 GHz band. In 2019, the amateur radio regulations listed their amateur allocation as 3.3 to 3.5 GHz. For WIA National News in Sydney, I'm Jason, VK2LAW.
This is the home service of the Wireless Institute of Australia through VK1WIA. Now operational news with Felix, VK4FUQ.
Hello there, 2020. CQ Worldwide DXCW November 28-29. Spring VHF UHF Field Days November 27-28. December 6-8 160 metres worldwide. December 14-15 10 metres worldwide. 2021. Ross Hull Memorial VHF UHF contest takes place all of January 2021. VHF UHF Summer Field Day Saturday 16 and Sunday 17 January. CQ Worldwide 160 metres CW contest January 29-31. CQ Worldwide 160 metres SSB contest February 26-28. DX window. Australia. Only 11 days or so left to work VI-75 WW2, which is active until November 11, commemorating the 75th anniversary of the end of the Second World War. Activities on the HF bands and QSL as far LOTW. VK65 PFA continues until the 24th of November, marking World Polio Day and Polio Free Africa. Hence the suffix. Visit QRZ for VK65 PFA operating and QSL details. We members of the WIA are QRV with VI-110 WIA until the end of 2020, celebrating our 110th anniversary. OR39CLM in Belgium commemorates the liberation in 1944 by Canadian troops. OR39CLM is on the air only November 13. And speaking of the Canucks, be listening for Ron, VA3RVK, who will be on the air in Canada as XL3T until November 24. This to commemorate the 75th anniversary of the ending of World War II and the Canadian liberation. Be listening for him as well as CJ3T on November 28th. QSL for both call signs to V3AT. Hungary. HA70MOV from Budapest until December 1 celebrates the 70th anniversary of the Hungarian Railway. Activities on the various HF bands. QSL via LTW. Denmark. OZ200EM is on the air until the end of 2020, honouring the memory of Hans Christian Ørsted, discoverer of the principle of electromagnetism some 200 years ago. QSL via OZ1ACB. Also in Denmark, Special Event Station OZ100MILL is working to December 15, celebrating the 100-year anniversary of the unification in 1920 of southern Jutland with Denmark. QSL via the Bureau. Listen for 7Q6M from a mission hospital at the Aladdin station in Malawi, a landlocked country in the southeastern Africa, until the middle of December. He is using CW and SSB at various times, usually on 20, 40 and 80 metres. You can listen for him also during the CQ-WIA CW contest on November 28 and 29. Send QSLs to K6ZO. Germany. DK70 DARC is active until the end of December to celebrate the 70th anniversary of the Deutsche Amateur Radio Club. QSL via the Bureau. Netherlands. With the passing of Edward Van Halen, legendary guitarist of the band Van Halen back on October 6, a special tribute special event station is rocking the air as PA5150 EVH until January 31st, 2021. QSL via PF1 SCT by the Bureau, and there will be a limited number of special QSL cards, but QSL only via the Bureau. Hong Kong. Special call sign VR2HK90 is QRV until May 31, 2021, to celebrate the 90th anniversary of the Hong Kong Amateur Radio Transmitting Society. QSL via VR2HK. Now some net advice. An Echo Link next celebrates actress Hedy Lamarr. Actress Hedy Lamarr was noted for her performances as her pension from vending in the realm of radio. There's a party for her on Echo Link, and Jim Dameron, N8TMW, tells us about it.
Among radio enthusiasts and fellow tinkerers, the late actress Hedy Lamarr deserved her name up in lights for reasons that had nothing to do with Hollywood. An inventor with a penchant for technology, the star is credited with helping develop a patented radio signaling device used during the Second World War that years later led to GPS, Bluetooth, increased security on mobile phones, and Wi-Fi. In 1997, just 3 years before her death at the age of 85, she was given the Electronic Frontier Foundation's Pioneer Award. On Monday, November 9th, which would have been her 106th birthday, the Echolink Rockham conference server is hosting Hedy Lamarr Day with a 4-hour net. 4 YL net controllers will be taking check-ins and celebrating her accomplishments. The net will also be accessible on the Do-Drop-In conference server node 355800. For just a short while, Hedy Lamarr will also be back on the screen, the small screen in this case. Organizer John DeRicky, W2JLD, told Newsline that the event will be streamed on YouTube's World Amateur Radio Day channel. It will also be heard on Broadcastify. Be watching NetLogger and be listening on Echolink for the call sign N9H, November 9 Hotel. And visit the QRZ page for details about a special event QSL card. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Jim Dameron, N8TNW.
Thanks, Jim. Now for Ingham, this has been Felix VK4FUQ for WIA National News.
This is the Wireless Institute of Australia and VK1WIA.
Media Watch, the last of TV's Last Man Standing. Attention TV fans, Tim Allen, KK6 OTD is going QRT on the Fox network. The American TV sitcom Last Man Standing will begin its 9th and final season on the network early next year. The Fox network has carried the series since May 2018, following its cancellation by ABC a year earlier. The show features Tim as amateur radio operator Mike Baxter, KA0XTT. Producer John Amadio, AA6JA, told our sister newscaster Amateur Radio Newsline that cast and crew are now in the process of shooting 21 shows to begin airing in January. All is not lost, however, as John noted, even after Series 9 is done, the show's 194 episode will no doubt go live in syndication.
This is the home service of the Wireless Institute of Australia through VK1WIA. Now, special interest group news with Cole, VK3GTV.
And as we kick off another month, first up it's CW. Competition is in the cards for Straight Key Century Club. For members of the Straight Key Century Club, the competition's in the cards. The QSL cards, that is. Skeeter Nash, N5ASH from Amateur Radio Newsline, explains.
CW enthusiasts who've had their fill of sprints, QSO parties, marathons, and other on-air contests are being invited to take their competitive spirits off the air for a little while and express themselves with something other than their straight keys. This is a QSL card contest, and it's for members of the Straight Key Century Club, which is marking its 15th anniversary in 2021. Members are being asked to provide designs for QSL cards to be used during the club's annual Straight Key Month, which begins on January 2nd, 2021. The call sign for the event is, once again, K3Y. If you belong to the club and have an idea for a catchy card, submit your entry no later than December 14th. Members will vote online for their favorite designs starting on December 15th. The most popular design is the one that gets the distinction of being the official K3Y QSL card for Straight Key Month. Even if you don't win the top honors, if your QSL card lands among the top 12 in popularity, it will be among those featured in the club's printed calendar for the new year. Members of the Straight Key Century Club should send their images to Drew at af2z@skccgroup.com. I'm Skeeter Nash, N5ASH.
Thanks, Skeeter. Now on to Worldwide Special Interest Groups Digital. The ARRL reports WSJT ex-co-developer Joe Taylor, K1JT, recently expressed puzzlement over the use of FT8 in contests rather than FT4, which was designed for contesting. He said, and I quote, "I fail to understand why anyone who uses FT8 in a contest would fail to use FT4 for much of the time, as it's twice as fast. For speed, flexibility and ease of running the bands, yes, you should use SSB and CW when there are stations to work," Taylor said in summary. "When you run out of those, use FT8 and especially FT4. Worldwide Special Interest Groups Final Frontier. Satellite acronyms wiki established. As with any specialised or technical endeavour, the language of amateur satellites is filled with terms, abbreviations, shorthands and acronyms that become second nature to those who use them daily, but can be obscure to newcomers, or even to old hands who begin to explore new aspects of satellite construction or operation. This became abundantly clear during the recent AMSAT symposium, in which some of our hobby's top experts presented projects to the general membership. In response to inquiries from symposium participants, John Breyer, KG4AKV, and Brad Brooks, WF7T, have initiated a wiki page for listing and briefly explaining the technical jargon of our field. When confused by an unfamiliar batch of alphabet soup, consult the wiki at the link we like in this week's text edition of WIA National News. In other satellite news, new satellite distance records claimed. Casey Tucker, KI7UNJ, and Jerome Lakaya, F4DXV, have set a new record via RS-44. They completed an 8,402 kilometre QSO between DN32 in Idaho and JN15 in France on October 19th, which exceeds the prior record by just 45 kilometres. F4DXV also set another record during his trip to JN15. Shortly after setting the record on RS44, Jerome worked Michael Stein, K2MTS, in FN22 via AO27. This QSO covered a distance of 5,904 kilometres, eclipsing the prior record of 5,682 kilometres. Worldwide Special Interest Groups, IOTA, TX0T, Caesar VE3LYC is active as TX0T from one of the new IOTAs in French Polynesia, Tatakoto Atoll OC298, until the 5th of November, primarily on 40, 30, 20 and 17 metres CW and SSB. QSL via Club Logs OQRS or via VE3LYC. Worldwide Special Interest Groups, Maritime. When we hear the word maritime mentioned, the mind often springs to one of the greatest tragedies on the high seas, the sinking of the Titanic. Now there is an ongoing legal battle that divides those who want to retrieve the ship's telegraph versus those who prefer that everything on the bottom of the ocean be left alone for good. This artefact is considered key, pardon the pun, to the tragedy, but to recover it, it would be necessary to make searches in an underwater area where there may still be human remains of the 1,500 people who were shipwrecked in the Atlantic. This controversy has arisen since the American company, which has already removed several items from the ocean liner, announced new plans. RMS Titanic Incorporated wants to recover the Marconi wireless telegraph that issued distress signals on the night of the shipwreck, April 15, 1912. These calls saved the lives of about 700 people who managed to escape in lifeboats. The expedition would take place in the middle of 2021 using an underwater robot. However, the United States government opposes these plans, claiming that such an operation would violate federal law and would not respect an international agreement also involving the United Kingdom, which recognises the wreck as a memorial to the dead. Worldwide Special Interest Groups, Radio Amateur Oldtimers. With a reminder that the Radio Amateurs Oldtimers Club of Australia's November Bulletin goes to air tomorrow, here's Clive, VK6CSW.
The main features this month are Club News and Report on the AGM, the first big broadcast read by Ian, VK3JS, and Part 2 of The Uncertain Future of Amateur Radio, read by Bruce, VK3UV. Everyone's most welcome to tune in tomorrow and to join in the callbacks afterwards. Eastern States listeners are reminded that there are now 2 20-metre transmissions tomorrow. The first is at 00 hours UTC from Catherine in the Northern Territory, beamed southeast, and the second an hour later at 0100 hours UTC, beamed north from Melbourne. Both transmissions are on 14.150 MHz. At 10 a.m. Victorian time, there is a new 80-metre transmission on 3650 kHz, transmitted simultaneously with the 160, 40 and 2-metre transmissions. Also note that the evening 80-metre and 2-metre transmissions have been brought forward to 8 p.m. A full list of transmission times and frequencies throughout Australia, including those via DMR, D-Star and Echolink, can be found on the RAOTC website www.raotc.org.au. Most times quoted are Melbourne local times. Be aware that Victoria is now on daylight saving time, so those in other states who listen via D-Star, DMR or Echolink will need to adjust their local times accordingly. Don't forget too that you can download the current audio file from the RAOTC website at any time as from today. So once again, please check the RAOTC website for your local transmission schedule, tune in tomorrow, or download the file for the November Bulletin, and we look forward to hearing your call sign in the callbacks afterwards. 7-3 from Clive, VK6CSW.
Thanks, Clive. Now on to Worldwide Special Interest Group's Rescue Radio. This is not a drill. Emergency communication kits from ARRL headquarters have been pre-positioned in Louisiana in preparation for Tropical Storm Zeta, which is headed for Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. The Hurricane Warning Center station, WX4NHC, said at time of sourcing for this article in WIA News that Zeta was some 120 miles southeast of Cozumel, Mexico, with maximum sustained winds of 70 miles per hour, moving northwest at 10 miles per hour. The NHC predicts some strengthening before Zeta makes landfall. ARRL Emergency Management Director Paul Stewart, KE5ZW, has contacted ARES leadership in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama and Florida to offer such assistance as ham aid if needed. For WIA National News, I'm Col, VK3GTV.
Rewind.
I'm John Knox, VK4FJRK.
KDKA, Pittsburgh. KDKA, Pittsburgh.
KDKA Centennial, the birth of commercial radio. Monday, November the 2nd, 2020, marks the centennial of radio station KDKA going on the air for the first time. Their first broadcast, considered by many to be the birth of commercial radio, was to report the election results of the Harding-Cox presidential race.
This is KDKA of the Westinghouse Electric and Manufacturing Company in East Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We shall now broadcast the election returns. The election returns will be broadcast as soon as they are received by us here at KDKA. We'd appreciate it if anyone hearing this broadcast would communicate with us, as we are very anxious to know how far the broadcast is reaching and how it is being received.
KDKA has been on the air continuously ever since then. To celebrate this historic milestone, Pittsburgh area amateur radio operators will take to the airwaves with a series of special event stations. Their goal is to contact as many other ham radio operators across the United States and around the world as they can. They will be celebrating the centennial of KDKA for the entire month of November. KDKA originally began operations in 1916 as an amateur radio station called sign 8XK, operated by Dr. Frank Conrad, the Assistant Chief Engineer of Westinghouse Electric and Manufacturing Company. During World War I, amateur radio operations were ordered to be suspended because of national security concerns. After the war, the operators reorganised the station as a commercial AM radio station. The first transmissions of KDKA were from a makeshift studio on a roof of the Westinghouse K building in East Pittsburgh. 4 men basically manned that first broadcast: engineer William Thomas, telephone line operator John Frazier, R.S. McClelland, a standby, and Leo Rosenberg, radio's first announcer. The election results were relayed to about 1,000 listeners who learned through this incredible new medium that Warren Harding had beaten James Cox in the race for the White House. The KDKA amateur radio special event stations, operating with call signs K3A, K3D, K3K and W8XK, will be set up at several locations in Pennsylvania during this month of November.
KDKA Pittsburgh.
My time is up. With Rewind, I'm John Knox, VK4FJRK.
This is VK1WIA. All points of contacts from today's news stories are to be found in print when you read the web editions, www.wia.org.au.
On the 2020 social scene, and a great weekend last was had by all who ventured to Sunfest, Southeast VK4's first hamfest in quite a while. Nothing else like it on the horizon have we received, but VK4's next big event is in central Queensland. It's the Rockhampton Amateur Radio Club's annual dinner, Saturday, November 28. So let's see if I can jag another rig in any raffle held. The day after, even further north, the TARC AGM happens November 29 at Rossiter Park, Aitkenvale. So now, till next we meet, I'm Graham, VK4BB. Walk softly.
From Australia, this has been the Wireless Institute of Australia with the weekly news service. This broadcast is in text, audio and video and is accessed on wia.org.au.